Good morning, and today's going to be King 8 of Hearts. We are under the gun. We fold. We get a mid position player, hijack. Open raises 2.5, button calls, and big blind calls. So this player's playing 2011, 45 hands on him, no notes. Looks like his raise for sin stats, 25% mid position, 25% cutoff. That's 2 out of 8, 1 out of 4. Overall race for sins, that's 19%. I think small sample size have skewed this a bit. He's had more opportunities in mid position, but that also looks like that is when he had his hands, because that's when he's been playing them. So I don't think it's quite up to 25%. I'd be questioning if it's as high as 20%. I put together this range as a 17%. If we think he's going to be raising with a wider range, then we can add it. I think Ace 10 is probably valid. Ace 10 offsuit, that brings it up to 18.6. I think maybe you can do like Jack 9, 10, 8. That brings it up to 19. If we do like all the way down to 5, 6, that gets us to 20%. And then like 9, 7, 8, 8, 6. I think that's a reasonable range. For this player, for at least the limited information that we have. Next player, 2186, same thing. We don't have many hands, only 39 hands here. If we look at his button, it's 1 out of 5. That's all he's played. And he raised first in that one time that he had that opportunity. So again, it's going to be difficult to try to assess like what ranges he has. We do know he 3-bets, so we have a 3-bet range of aces. We have 4-bet range of 10s. With that 10s, he probably raised first in, faced a 3-bet, and then came over the top. That could be a blind versus blind, but normally you'll see some of the blind information on these notes. So we do have raise first in on the button with 7-6 of diamonds. He's in position. He called a 75% bet, 75% pot bet. Then he raised about 66% versus a half pot lead, and then he just called 50% on a 9, 7, 5, 8, 6. So I remember this hand. This was a hand where he turned the straight. That's why he raised, and then the river gave that, completed the straight on the board, and his opponent had the 10, and that's why he called. So I remember this hand here. I thought he could have raised it, raised the cbet, because then he probably would have gotten more money in initially and not worry about, I think it was a little bit better. But anyways, 21-8. When we look at his range, I put it together range like this. This is about 14% that he calls. I don't think he's overly loose. I really don't. At an overall 21%. That's a 21% VPIP. If we look at calling 2-bets, it's only 17%. It's 3 out of 18. He did it in the cutoff, and he did it once in the small blind. So I kind of feel like we're dealing with a range maybe like this. Maybe we could give like suited aces as well. I think callers, in position callers, can do that. So I'll call with the suited aces because they're in position. They might even call like king 9, queen 9. I'd lean more towards like jack 9 and not these two, since like king 9 doesn't make a straight and queen 9 just seems a little weak. But I know people play king 9 because they've got the king. We're gonna go with this range. This is we'll add those. We'll add jack 10 here. We'll go with 18%. That looks good. Our last guy, button's playing 90% of hands right now with 39% hands known. This guy's wide. Do have a 4-bet range, so we know that he can 3-bet, and he did that with 9-8 off, which is just crazy. I think for the most part we have almost all of the hands here. We've got a 3-bet, 2 out of 20. Twice he 3-bet. I'm gonna say queens plus ace king is 3-bet, and then I'm gonna give him all of this stuff. I'm gonna exclude those offsuits that can't really make a straight. I did include queen 2 because or the offsuit queens, because we have that in the notes, is that he did call with the queen 2. So massive range. A 3-way, see a flop of 9-7-2 with 2 hearts. So villain checks. I don't think this is a board to donk, but you know, he does lead a lot. Yeah, I don't think this is a board that will really see a lot of donk bets. But the villain or hijack had initiative, chose not to bet. It's going to eliminate my sets and overpairs. cbet set's pretty high, so I think I'm going to eliminate top pair. We could give the weaker pairs as well. I'm also going to eliminate, let's get our colored groupings. I'm going to eliminate a flush draw and open ender, because I do, based on a cbet, I mean, it's 100%, and that is 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1. I do think this would be a spot where you can lead, where you can continue with your flush draw. Probably not with the gut shot, but I think we'll be good with that range. So top pair plus, he'd be c-betting along with his flush draw open ender. He chose not to, so his hand just became a whole lot weaker. Player in position had an opportunity to bet and chose not to take it. So that is definitely exclude sets in 2 pairs, over pair, and I would say our top pair too. Eights are questionable. Maybe he bets. Same thing with sevens. Maybe he bets. Doesn't look overly aggressive, so I think I'm gonna just leave him in. And I do think a flush draw is gonna bet, and an open ender is going to bet here. So we will X those out. So again, his hand just kind of becomes weaker at this point. 4 of clubs. Now we get a lead. I think based on his donking, 67%, I bet this guy bets. Tries to bet aggressively. So there's no real donk here, but 92% bet. 92% on the turn, 67 on the flop. Wow. Just a lot. 10, 14. Yeah, this guy could, unfortunately, this guy can have pretty decent hand. He could do set, 2 pair, over pair, top pair. That 4 doesn't really help anyone, so I think he can go with all of his pairs here. All of his straws, including possibly gut shots. Could be bluffs too. I mean, it could do that. Because each of these players had an opportunity to bet on this board, they chose not to, so now he leads, and he led only about a quarter of a pot. So that kind of makes me think maybe he is doing this with his entire range, just to see what's going to happen. So yeah, I'll leave the entire range here. We get this guy to fold. This guy calls. So what is he calling with? I'm going to do open ender gut shot. And we'll do sets, probably would have raised. I think maybe the pairs. And we'll do like our aces. The aces are just kind of questionable. Why would you do that? I'll take those out. On a flop, I could see them. On a turn, I don't think so. I think most players just fold them. All right, so we get a call, and now we get a 3. Villain bets. Now he bets actually rather large relative to the pot. So at this point, I don't think he's doing that as a bluff. but perhaps he's doing it with any pair because again, this card doesn't really improve, and for his point of view, he could have been calling with a flush draw, or with like a gut shot or a straight draw. 5-6, so 4 gives him an open ender. He's going to call with that. So if he has a pair, he's betting probably for value. Not necessarily sure if I like it, as missed draws are just going to fold. So there's really no value to betting small pocket pair, or a small pair, I should say. But we'll give him that weak pair, and he could be a straight. He could have a set 2 pair. Although we could probably exclude some of those and say that he probably would have bet more on the turn. So let's go back to the turn. Whoops. Darn it. So we had 4 clubs. Let's go back to here and let's exclude our good hands here. Like sets in 2 pair. They're probably even over pair. And our top pair, we'll do like the top 3. I think he would have bet larger with all of those. Yeah, I think it could have been larger for all of those. But now he does bet larger. So hands that he could conceivably have straight, yeah, 2 pair, over pair, top pair. Doesn't really change anything here. I guess why would you bet that large if you've got some hands here? You're trying to get paid off, but I'm trying to focus here. Why bet? Why bet big? You know, why not just bet smaller for like a top pair and like that, and then bet bigger with like your ace high and your nothing hands, kind of as a bluff. We'll see. So we're gonna go with that. Of course, he calls. So at this point, I do think a straight's probably just gonna raise here. Set had a possibility of raising. He could just call here, but then probably pocket pair less than top card and the middle pairs calling. I don't think 5s or 6s is calling at this point. So I think that's going to be our ranges. So we show a 7-9, and he shows pocket 4s. So we didn't have the trips. We didn't have the 2 pair. I mean, we have some 2 pairs, but that's one of those. We just went back here and said, you know, with this 2 pair, I do think he probably would have bet larger. And I guess maybe not. I mean, maybe that's going to be his size all the way. We also went to this guy and said, well, if he had a set, he probably would have raised it at that point, and they didn't. So I'm going to say kudos to both of these players. I couldn't get their hand. Which I guess if that's what they were going for, that's fine. But we do have the issue of, I think they misplayed it. I think this guy should have won a lot more. I don't necessarily mind the check. He had a hidden strong hand here. Definitely had a hidden strong hand. So I don't mind. He's probably check calling or check raising here. And I went check check. And the 4, I don't mind. You're 3-way. You're going to be a little bit more straightforward, and it's not like you have the heart. You don't have a heart. So then on the turn, you get this lead, this quarter-sized lead. I think this would be a great spot to raise at this point. 2.5, you raise to 8. You can raise to, I wouldn't raise to 5. That's just like a min raise. I think a 7.5 or 8 would be okay. So that's at not 25. I don't know, 30% maybe, a little bit more. I think he should raise because you're attacking anybody that's going to be weak. And if he doesn't believe him, he's going to make that call with a wide range. Like he can make it that call with a 7 or with a 9 or with a 2 or with a 4. With the draws, you're getting the money in there, and especially if he has a draw, he'll call now, but if he misses his draw, he's not going to call on the river. So yeah, I think you raise. I think he should raise right now. And then 9-7's calling or raising. If 9-7 raises, that's actually a really good situation for you. Because you're looking at this board and it's like right now, what is he raising with? I think you're looking at 2 pair, maybe trips. I think you call. So he raises, he re-raises, you call with 4s. And then if he leads, you can call again. But if he checks, then I think you go ahead and bet, like a pot size bet. He's going to call. I think it's going to freeze him. If he comes over the top, I think you probably just have to call at that point. Like even if he leads on the river, I think you just call. That's the conservative in me. Not to get out of control, but it kind of goes back to the turn. He raises, he re-raises. Are we going to put in another raise? Are we going to do it with pocket 4s? Yeah, we probably could. I think you have to know that we could be dealing with trips too, like 7s and 9s. That's consistent. Our trips only beat one pair of trips. We also have 2 pair. Would he do it? I'd have to think. Would he do it with 2 pair? Would he be doing it with the heart? Maybe he has a big draw. Maybe he has 8-10. So I think GTO might say to raise. I'm not sure. But in any case, I think this guy lost a little bit of value. I think he could have won more. I actually don't mind the 7-9. You check the flop. You lead the turn. I think the bet sizing was okay. May have gone a little bit larger because again, it just kind of smaller size. Now that we know this sizing, perhaps his tendency is go smaller when you have a hand, go larger when you don't, which will allow us to narrow the range down. We already had, I think, a note that he says, plays turn draw aggressively. So doesn't say anything about sizing. We do have a note called button. Called in the big blind with 10-9, out of position. Then he bet 75 at 50, and then called 66% raise. Oh, this guy was up against this guy. That was a hand. Yeah, in this case he had 9-10. He bet larger with his good hand. So bet 75%, donked 75% with the top pair hand. So yeah, maybe it's related to draws. Who knows? In any case, it's I think we can take some notes here. So we overcall. In big blind with 9 of spades, 7 of diamonds. He is out of position. Check and then bet. Let's say just 30%. We'll keep it simple. Bet 30%. And then bet probably 75%, I think. Bet 75%. And the board was 9 of hearts, 7 of spades, 2 hearts, 4 clubs, 3 diamonds. All right, and we get one more. First note for this player. So he RFI 2.5 big blind and hijack with 4s. So we had that MP3 way. So he checked and then he called 66, no, 30%. Then called 75% on that board. All right, so we reviewed the hands. Kind of misjudged what they would be raising with. Kind of a soup, and again, that's players kind of miss out sometimes. So we've got some notes now. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, you can look tomorrow. I hope to do hand reading each day of the weekend. But if you don't see it up on the weekend, then look on Monday. We'll be back to normal.